Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Welcome everyone to the September 9th, 2024 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. For those attending in person and wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign the register at the rear of the room. Turn off any devices that may be a distraction. To minimize feedback in the audio, all online participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for the local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and a discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I will ask Commissioner Bowden to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would all please rise?
Creator, we give sincere thanks for this opportunity to meet together and for the opportunity to come together for a common purpose. May we listen to one another intently with the goal of bettering ourselves and our community. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us. May we carry out each of these responsibilities to the best of our capability. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Bowden. All right, with that introduction, I will ask the clerk to please go ahead and call roll.
Bowden? Here. Buzza? Here. Cardenas? Kona? Fernandez? Kress? Here. Lauk? Here. Soria?
Here.
Sieben? Orton?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Joseph?
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. All right, next up is the approval of the minutes for the following meetings. Hillsborough County Planning Commission, regular meeting minutes, July 29th, 2024. Hillsborough County Planning Commission, public hearing on Hillsborough County Plan Amendments, meeting minutes, July 29th, 2024. Hillsborough County Planning Commission regular meeting minutes, August 12th, 2024. Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on City of Tampa Plan Amendments meeting minutes, August 12th, 2024. And last but not least, Hillsborough County Planning Commission public hearing on Hillsborough County Plan Amendments meeting minutes, August 12th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve out there?
Motion to approve said minutes.
All right. Second. All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Lauk, second to that motion by Commissioner Buzza. Questions, comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We are moving to item number 2 on our agenda, public input. We have some people who requested to speak on some presentation items that are not for action tonight, so I will allow them to speak during the public input minutes. I'm going to check online again we'll start online and then I'll move to in-person. I will start with Brian Holbrook. Is Brian Holbrook on the line? HTV?
Brian did not sign in.
Okay, and what about Tricia Scheineman?
No, sir.
All righty, then we will move to our in-person individuals who wanted to speak. And, pardon me? Oh. In person, in person we had, first off, Jason Marlowe. Oh, your mic.
Howdy, all. Good afternoon. My name is Jason Marlowe, and I'm here as the Vice President of the Southeast Seminole Heights Civic Association, and I'm here on their behalf. And I'm here to strongly object to this body's representative on the TPO voting to support highway expansion into my neighborhood despite the vociferous objections of us, the residents directly negatively affected, in addition to the unanimous objection of Tampa City Council and the near unanimous objection of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I want to say, as someone who's seriously considered joining the civilian board, I find myself wondering why I would bother investing my good time if the recommendations made by my peers would be ignored. I ask for this board to reflect upon and change course on this action. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Rick Fernandez.
Just a point of order, Chair. There's a 3-minute clock up here. Is that to time me, or is that for some other purpose?
That's the time for the speaker.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's going to start counting down in a moment. All right. Test, test. All right, thank you. Again, my name is Rick Fernandez. I reside at 2906 North Elmore Avenue in Tampa. It's Tampa Heights. I'm the president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association and also had the privilege of chairing the TPO CAC and have for the last 2 years. My ask today is that this commission visit, or perhaps revisit, the commission's position on the widening of Interstate 275 north of Hillsborough to Beers. Why? The widening has been opposed since the rollout of TBX in 2015 by urban core historic neighborhoods such as mine and Seminole Heights. In June of 2021, the TPO stripped that widening project from the tip, and it remained that way as a status quo up until June of 2024, just 2 months ago. At that time, during the tip public hearing, Commissioner Wastel made a motion to insert the words capacity project into the tip for the line item addressing this particular corridor of 275. There was no notice for the motion. It, however, passed by a vote of 8-7. The representative of this commission voted with the majority to support the widening. In August of 2024, the TPO board, through Council Hertek, made a motion, or heard a motion, to remove that language from the tip and to renotice it for hearing in October with proper public notice. That motion to remove the language from the tip failed by a vote of 6-7. Again, the representative of this commission voted in support of the widening and support of the majority position. Given the surprise nature of Wastel's maneuver, this body could not have litigated this issue before the June vote. Nobody saw it coming. So my question is, does the representative's vote accurately capture the will of this body? And I mean no disrespect to the chair. It was a surprise to all of us. If it does not accurately reflect the will of this body, then I implore you, please, to revisit the issue, reverse the vote, and correct the record. I will note anecdotally, the CAC of the TPO has voted 10-1 in favor of removing that language and made that recommendation. The Tampa City Council, by a vote of 6-0, it was unanimous that day, Alan Clendenin was missing, passed a resolution to oppose the widening. The cost of this project in 2022 dollars, $223 million that honestly we do not need to be spending for widening. The only rationale is evacuation, and that's bogus. You run from water, you hide from wind. Evacuation is not a rationale for this expenditure. Thank you.
All right, that's all we had signed up for our public comment, so we will move right on into our action items. And first up, we had action item 3A, Access 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan, LRTP draft. And the presenters are Gina Torres and Katrina Corcoran.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission staff. I will be presenting on the consistency review portion of this presentation. I also have the TPO consultant, Jennifer Musselman, here to present more detailed on the Access 2050 LRTP. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up her presentation. After that, I'll come back up with the consistency review, and then we'll have time for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. Good afternoon. Jennifer Musselman, consultant to the Hillsborough TPO, here to share the culmination of several years of work to put together the draft long-range transportation plan, Access 2050. So Access 2050 was a collaborative process that follows federal and state regulations. It combined a data-driven needs assessment with extensive public outreach to ultimately arrive at a cost-feasible plan. With today's presentation, we'll be asking for a recommendation to the board to open the 30-day comment period at their meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, and then the TPO will ultimately vote to adopt at an October hearing. The almost 5,000 surveys that were received as part of the outreach is a huge testament to TPO and Planning Commission staff time to get out into the community and hear the concerns of residents and workers. You can see almost 90% of surveys were either residents or employees of Hillsborough County, so a lot of effort went into making sure that we heard the right voices and as many voices as possible through the outreach period. Staff ultimately went to 45 different community events, gave 11 separate presentations, and did bus ride-alongs on 5 routes and 3 transit centers to talk one-on-one with transit users. You can see the map on the slide. The stars represent the different events that staff went to, and then the colors are the number of surveys. So the orange and purple represent a higher number of surveys, and the green a lower number of surveys. But ultimately, staff covered every corner of the county, and we heard from all the different zip codes throughout the county. The top priorities that we heard from the community, the first is newer, faster transit. The second is reduce traffic jams. And the third is to maintain roads and bridges in a state of good repair. And we'll see how those priorities fed into the cost feasible plan later in the presentation. A lot of different factors go into putting together the cost feasible plan. So we've heard about the input we received. TPO also did a growth forecast to see how many people would be living and working in Hillsborough County in 2050. They participated in an environmental consultation workshop in May to understand the environmental impacts of projects in the LRTP. And then in the following slides, we'll talk about the needs assessments and funding sources that ultimately led to the cost feasible plan. The needs assessments followed 5 programs. These are the same programs as the 2045 long-range plan, so they should look familiar. The first is smart cities. These are intersection improvements or technology improvements to improve congestion. State of good repair and resilience, which focuses on rehabilitation to roads, bridges, stormwater infrastructure, and the transit fleet. Vision Zero, which are specific safety projects on our high injury network corridors. Real choices when not driving, which includes expansion of bus service and trail network. And then major projects, which include road widening, new or modified interchanges, and then fixed guideway transit. TPO staff worked with FDOT to identify expected revenues over the 20-year long-range plan. So we're expecting about $18 billion to come to the TPO area over those 20 years. This includes a renewal of almost all of the taxes that are currently in place, with the exception of the second local option fuel tax. With 4 taxes up for renewal, it didn't seem likely that all 4 would pass, so it's a little bit of a conservative revenue forecast. Based on input from committees, board, and the public, the revenues were allocated largely based on current trend spending. It's worth noting that FDOT receives a majority of the revenue, so that's why the green for major projects is such a large component of the revenue allocation. Local dollars are generally going to the good repair and resilience, and real choices when not driving, which reflects those survey preferences that I shared earlier. $18 billion sounds like a lot of money, and TPO is committed to making good use out of every dollar, but the plan ultimately identified nearly $50 billion in needs. So TPO and planning partners are going to continue to have to be creative, continue applying for grant dollars to truly address all the needs in Access 2050. Now I'll go through what is cost feasible, so what is likely able to be funded over the 20-year horizon. The first two slides are FDOT projects. So this first one is the Strategic Intermodal System projects. These are mostly interstate projects. The interstate widening on I-275, managed lanes on I-275, I-4, and I-75, interchange modifications on I-75, and then 2 widenings on State Arterial, State Road 60, and then the Gandy Bridge. For non-CIS state roadways, there are several widenings throughout the county: State Road 39, State Road 574, portion of US 301, and a portion of US 92. Local roadways, again, this is mostly widening projects. So we have Mango Road, Anderson Road, Madison Avenue, 46th Street, and Lumsden Road. And then a recent addition based on feedback from the last round of committee meetings was Lithia Pinecrest. So you can see that highlighted in blue on the map. And then the last of the major projects is the arterial bus rapid transit from downtown to University of South Florida. So that is included in the cost feasible plan. And then there are also programmed funds for those other 4 needs categories. And so with the funding allocated to each of them, expecting to reduce peak hour delay by almost 50%, help maintain our roads and bridges in a good state, reduce bicycle and pedestrian crashes by 55% and total crashes by 35%, add over 40 miles of new trails to the trail network, and then provide bus service at least every 30 minutes to 65% of county residents. So that's the end of my presentation. Katrina will come back with a consistency review, and then after that, we'll take questions on both presentations.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission staff. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm here today to present on the Access 2050 LRTP. This is specifically the consistency review portion. So Jennifer just went through this. Again, the LRTP was prepared by the TPO. It is a transportation vision for Hillsborough County, looking at the 25-year period and addressing projects to address needs over that 25-year period, required to be cost feasible, and it does include those 5 different investment programs that you saw on her slides. These are particularly important to keep in mind when considering the consistency review. And for my consistency review slides here, you'll see the objectives and policies are listed by comprehensive plan. So this was an area-wide review looking at all 4 comprehensive plans. This slide shows the Tampa comprehensive plan specifically. The Planning Commission's review and coordination with the TPO on the LRTP meets the general need for cross-agency cooperation and evaluation at the Planning Commission and jurisdictional levels. This is important for specific components of the comprehensive plan, including ensuring that the LRTP and the constrained roadways list of the jurisdiction's comprehensive plans are in sync. So again, we went through those constrained roadways lists, made sure that nothing that was listed on those constrained roadways lists was in the LRTP slated to be widened. So everything was good there. This slide shows the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, the objectives and policies listed for the consistency review. While the preferred scenario does not maximize any particular investment category, it does allocate revenue across several different project types. This fulfills the intent of many comprehensive plan policies. For example, the comprehensive plans call for jurisdictional coordination with the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority, or HART, and the TPO for improved transit service delivery and protection of multimodal or transit rights of way. This fits into the project categories within real choices when not driving and major projects. Additionally, the policy language across various comprehensive plans encourages connectivity and intermodal links to vital destinations across the area. This fits into the project categories within major projects. Last but not least, this slide shows the policies, objectives and policies for Plant City's comprehensive plan. Those are listed with those first two that are noted with element, and the Temple Terrace comprehensive plan, which is the final bullet point that you see here listed as a section. The comprehensive plans include language on coordination with the TPO to prioritize maintenance and improvement of evacuation routes. This encompasses project types under good repair and resilience, as well as major projects. Finally, the comprehensive plans discuss coordination with the TPO to achieve Vision Zero goals, which fits with the Vision Zero investment program for crash reduction. While the various jurisdictions' comprehensive plans' long-range goals would benefit from increased spending levels across all investment categories, the LRTP's methodology takes into consideration board and committee feedback for what is realistic in terms of revenue sources over the next 25 years. Ultimately, the LRTP's preferred scenario allocates revenues across many of the spending categories in line with comprehensive plan direction in the most feasible manner, given current direction of work programs and present conditions of transportation funding. Planning Commission staff recommends that the Access 2050 LRTP be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, the Plant City Comprehensive Plan, and the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan. With that, this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on the consistency review portion of this. We also have Jennifer, as well as TPO staff in the room and online if you have any questions on the LRTP more specifically. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We had only one individual sign up for comment on this one, so we will turn it over to Mr. Fernandez. All righty. All right. Well, that's all we had sign up for the public comment for this item. So I will turn it over then to the commissioners for questions, comments, discussions on this one. Commissioner Soria.
Question regarding the LRTP. One of the suggestions from the community was congestion was a big issue. Is there a plan to introduce or even think or do study about mass rapid transit systems for the public down the road, or is that not being considered?
Thank you, Planning Commissioner. Yes, we did receive that feedback that the public highly values investments to improve travel time reliability and reduce congestion. Those specific project types can be evaluated either under the smart cities category or major projects if you're talking about mass transit. For the mass transit, the amount of traffic that would be avoided with that system is very difficult to assess using the modeling tools that we have available. Our preference would be to evaluate those impacts under the Smart Cities Tech Memo, which we did. We know that transit has the value of pulling trips off of the roads in the form of single occupancy vehicles, but we did not use that as one of the primary performance criteria for ranking those transit projects. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Thanks.
Could you state your name for the record?
Johnny Wong, TPO Executive Director.
All right, we're there. Oh, Commissioner.
Yeah, good job on reaching all corners of the county. I think you all are familiar that we hear a lot of people coming and they don't want more traffic, right? So they don't want a development project to happen, and it's the whole chicken and egg thing. So whatever you all can do to help get the word out that more development doesn't have to mean more cars if we plan our transportation systems correctly, and it looks like the public wants to see more investments in transit. I don't know that the buckets really reflected that as much as I think we'd all like to see. Major projects seem to be a lot of, mostly widenings. Obviously, more enhancements for safety would also be greatly appreciated. But overall, good work, and I like the direction it's going. Thank you.
All right. Were there any other comments or questions, discussion points from the commissioners? We're not seeing any. Then I will go ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Commissioner Buzza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we find Access 2050 consistent with all the municipalities' comprehensive plans and forward on to the respective agencies.
All right, a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Buzza. Is there anything else out there? A second to that motion for Commissioner Soria.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Buzza, a second to that motion by Commissioner Soria. Are there any questions or comments, clarifications needed by the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, they will all signify their agreement by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, on to our next agenda item, item 3B, 2024 through 2025 Tentative School District Educational Facilities Plan, and the presenters are Sophia Garantiva and Michelle Orton.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Sophia Garantiva, Planning Commission staff, here to present on the consistency review for the Hillsborough County 2024-2025 School District Educational Facilities Plan. Very similar to the previous agenda item, I will introduce this item, and then I will hand it over to Michelle Orton from the school district, and then I will go ahead and come back and provide a consistency finding. So just to provide some background on the requirements, it is on the school district educational facilities plan. It includes the 5-year work program outlining new construction and additions to schools through the 2028 through 2029 school year, hence 5-year work plan as the shortened name of this item. It is adopted by the school board to provide adequate facility capacity for the projected school enrollment. And the Planning Commission reviews this plan annually per the Florida state statutes and the interlocal agreement between the school board and the 4 local governments for consistency with each jurisdiction's comprehensive plan. So I will now hand over the presentation to Michelle Orton, General Manager of Growth Management and Planning at Hillsborough County Public Schools.
Hello, Michelle Orton, General Manager of Growth Management, Planning, and Siting. Every year, per state statute, we are required to present the School District Educational Facilities Work Plan. This is for 2024-25 to 28-29. We have already presented this before the school board for our tentative plan, and it will go to the school board in October for its final plan. And this is pretty much what I just said. It's a review of the current educational facilities work plan. A lot of people call it 5-year work plan, but it's the educational facilities plan. Just a review of the next 5 years. Well, this year we opened Kenneth Adom PK through 8 Magnet School. Newsom High School addition, we were hoping to get it opened in August, but it will be April of 2025. And this is an auditorium and 5 or 10 classrooms that are being added to Newsom. In 2025, which is our second year, we will have Plant City Career Center, which is a 9 through 12, and it's also for adult education. And then the new high school, UUU, which was just renamed to Morgan High School. Year 3 will be a Tinker PK through 8 rebuild, and that's on the MacDill Air Force Base. The Air Force has agreed to fund that with us by 80 by 20%, so that's been great for us. It will be a complete rebuild, so students will be in modulars, and then while it's being rebuilt. Year 4, we will be building new middle school VV, and then we will be, as many of you are aware, Just Elementary School closed. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild Stewart Middle School, which is an older school, and then we will combine that with Just Elementary School to do a K through 8. Year 5, we are doing an addition to Alonzo High School and Steinbrenner High School. So the proposed construction projects by school level, and I've already talked about a couple of them. The combination school was Adom K through 8 and Tinker K through 8. This year we also included Apollo Beach. So what we've done is this year we added 6th grade. Next year will be 7th, and the year after that will be 8th grade to Apollo Beach. The elementary schools would be the just rebuild. Middle school is the new school, VV, and the Stewart Middle School rebuild. The high school will be the Plant City Career Center, the new high school, UUU or Morgan, the Alonzo Addition, and the Steinbrenner Addition. Projected expenditures and revenues for the next 1 through 5 years, year 1 through 5, and the projected total for the cost or the revenue and then the expenditures is $2,245,748,377,000. A couple of the capital expenditures are our modulars, bus purchases, site purchases, health, life, and safety. And then this is our 5-year work plan for new schools and additions. And those are the ones that I mentioned earlier. This is just in a table format to show how many students and the cost. Our next step, we will receive notification from the stakeholders. That's the Planning Commission, the different cities, and then we will submit those to the school board for their final approval. They've already done the tentative approval. This will be the final. After they've approved the final tentative work plan or educational facilities plan, then it gets sent to the Department of Education. And that's it. If you have any questions, I am here to answer them.
Thank you. So before going into each jurisdiction's consisting finding, I do want to make a note that there was an error in the staff report regarding the capital improvements and intergovernmental coordination section policy references for unincorporated Hillsborough County comprehensive plan. So the correct policy references are included in this presentation and will be corrected in the staff report before being transmitted back to the school board. So as such, staff has reviewed and found the proposed educational facilities plan consistent with the following objectives and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, specifically the public schools facilities elements, capital improvement section, and intergovernmental coordination sections. We also found the proposed request is consistent with the following objectives and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan and the public schools facilities section and the capital improvement section, as well as found it consistent with the objectives and policies of the Plant City Comprehensive Plan, specifically policies within the public schools facilities element, the capital improvements element, and the intergovernmental coordination element. Last but not least, we also found the proposed request consistent with the policies of the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan, specifically within the public schools facilities section, capital improvement section, and intergovernmental coordination section. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the attached resolution finding the proposed 2024 to 2025 school district educational facilities plan consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, Plant City Comprehensive Plan, Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan, and forwards this recommendation to the school board. And that concludes my presentation, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you. All right, we didn't have anyone sign up for the public comment on this one, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for discussions, questions, comments. Not seeing any. I had a minor curiosity. I was just wondering, I noticed it's a lot of capacity increases over the next 5 years. Are those capacity increases looking towards the future, or are we just keeping pace with what we need right now? Because I know we need a lot right now. So I'm wondering, like, you know, is that for way out in the future, or are we just trying to catch up to what we're missing now?
This is for the next 5 years, but we're also trying to keep up with what we have now. If you notice, the last 5 years, we're just doing additions because we have to wait for the money to come in to build new schools. So the 4th year, we're doing 1 new school. The 5th year, we're just doing additions. But we're trying to get it caught up as fast as we can.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments, questions, curiosities, Commissioner Soria?
Just out of curiosity, I saw like Temple Terrace doesn't get any addition or expansion. Is there any reason because of the demographic over there maybe, or if you could just explain?
Temple Terrace hasn't had any expansion or additions as far as growth in their area. We usually get, if from your building department, we will get growth as far as residential. We haven't received any for the last maybe 2 years from Temple Terrace.
Okay.
We'll get rebuilds where they'll move something, take something down, and put it back up. But as far as new growth, we haven't received anything.
Okay. Thank you for clarification.
Commissioner Kress.
I just wanted to say it's fun to see you on that side of the dais. And I know that it's a lot of juggling, and it can get pretty political, so good job getting it all sorted out.
Yeah, definitely good job. All right. Any other comments, questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, then we will close the public comment and open it up to motions. I see Commissioner Soria moving.
I'd like to forward the motion that we approve the 2024-2025 tentative school district educational facility plans.
All right. Motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Soria. Commissioner Lau.
Second.
All right. Second to that motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Lau. Are there any questions, clarifications, comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any at this time, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next agenda item up for business is 3C. Tampa 4-year 25 through 4-year 29 capital improvement program and capital improvement section CIS schedule of projects update, and the presenter is Erica Larson.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. This is Erica Larson, Planning Commission staff. This item is the Planning Commission's review of City of Tampa's Capital Improvement Program, CIP, and Capital Improvement Section, CIS, Schedule of Projects, Update. This is an action item. Chapter 97-351 requires that the Planning Commission review the updated CIPs prior to City Council adoption. Chapter 163 requires that the schedule of projects or the list of projects addressing level of service and adopted in the comprehensive plan be updated on an annual basis. The update would replace the existing CIS schedule and the comprehensive plan with the schedule listed in your packets. City staff identified projects in the CIS that affect the level of service. These items make up the schedule of projects. The update is accomplished by ordinance, which is explicitly permitted under Chapter 163. Additionally, the plans of other agencies are incorporated by reference. Displayed is a summary of the CIP projects, which are placed into 10 program areas. You can see the largest groups in terms of funding are wastewater and water. The total funding amount for fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 is approximately $1.682 billion for 194 projects. There are 7 main categories included in the CIS schedule: transportation, which includes sidewalks, bridges, and other pedestrian enhancements; solid waste, water, wastewater, stormwater, parks and rec, and infrastructure and mobility administration. The following slide provides a visual representation of the 5-year funding for all 10 CIP project areas. This slide shows the breakdown of level of service project types identified by the city and is consistent with the level of service priorities outlined in the capital improvement section, Objective 1.3 and Policy 1.3.2, which state the schedule of projects should be planned to both eliminate existing deficiency and replace worn-out facilities. 38 CIP projects are located in the CHHA. This is expected given that large portions of the city of Tampa are within the CHHA area. These projects are consistent with the CMS Objective 1.4. And these projects renovate or replace existing facilities, enhance recreation areas, and provide protection from flood hazards. Planning Commission staff recommends the City of Tampa's proposed fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 CIP and CIS schedule be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available, and we also have a representative from the City of Tampa Planning Department that's available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Did we have anyone sign up in the public comment for this one? No, we did not. So I will turn it over to the commissioners for discussions, questions, comments. Not seeing any, then I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners for this one. Anybody? Commissioner Soria.
I'd like to forward a motion that we approve, find it consistent, the City of Tampa fiscal year 25 to 29 CIP and CIS schedule of project updates.
All right, motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Soria. Commissioner Bowden?
I second the motion.
All right, we have a second to that consistency finding by Commissioner Bowden. Are there any questions, discussions, statements from the commissioners before we vote? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Next up, we have item 3D, Temple Terrace 4-year 25 through 4-year 29 capital improvement CIP update, and the presenter is, again, Erica Larson.
Again, good afternoon. This is Erica Larson, Planning Commission staff. This item is the Planning Commission's review of the City of Temple Terrace Capital Improvement Program, CIP. This is an action item. Similar to the previous presentation, Chapter 97-351 requires that the Planning Commission review the updated CIPs on an annual basis. The update is accomplished by ordinance, which is explicitly permitted under Chapter 163. Additionally, the plans of other agencies are incorporated by reference. Usually the CIS schedule projects is included in this report. However, due to staffing changes, it will be a separate item later this year. Displayed is a summary of the CIP projects, which are placed into 9 program areas. The total funding amount for fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 is $71.69 million for 224 projects. Displayed is a summary of the CIP projects, which are placed into, this chart depicts the same information as the previous slide with percentages broken down by program area. You can see the largest groups in terms of funding are public safety, which includes police and fire, followed by sewer, transportation, and water projects. Staff also analyzed the CIP with respect to the funding source requirements in the comprehensive plan. CIP policy 1.5.5 states that general funds should not be used for those facilities with dedicated revenue sources, such as potable water, wastewater, and solid waste. After review of the general fund expenditures, staff found none of these types of projects relied on general funds. CIP policy 1.5.10 and 1.5.11 state that all projects within the first 3 years of the city's CIP be funded with committed revenue sources. These include ad valorem taxes, gas taxes, and user charges. Staff reviewed the funding sources and timing and found that the CIP funding was in accordance with these requirements. Planning Commission staff recommends the city's proposed fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029 CIP be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no one signed up for the public comment on this item either, so I will turn it over to the commissioners for comments, questions, discussions. Not seeing anyone excited about it, I will go on ahead and close the public comment on this one and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Soria.
I'd like to forward a motion to approve a City of Temple Terrace fiscal year 25-29 CIP update.
All right, Commissioner Lauk.
Second.
All right, we got a motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Soria. Second to that motion by Commissioner Lauk. Any comments, questions, discussions from the commissioners? Not seeing any, then we'll all signify their agreement by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, and we have one more action item on the agenda, item 3E, Temple Terrace Land Development Code text amendment, but that item was postponed, I guess, indefinitely till it.
I don't think we've heard from Temple Terrace a date that they'll be moving it back to us.
Okay. All right. So we won't be hearing that when we're taking action on that tonight. All right. So next up, we have our non-action items. Go into our briefings and presentations, and we'll start with item 4A, TACPA 2404 Future Land Use Section Update Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, and the presenter is Jennifer Malone.
Hi, good afternoon. Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. I'm going to run through the future land use section proposed changes as we're updating the comprehensive plan. So I know you've had a couple other sections come to you for a briefing, and so that's what we're doing today, but for the future land use. So this is kind of what we've also been showing the public, and so I'm going to walk through a lot of the preliminary engagement process, what we've heard, some key changes, and then what we heard again, because we did more outreach, and so there's a couple different points where we've been seeking feedback, and then some next steps. So just as a reminder, this is part of the a plan update in coordination with the City of Tampa, and we've branded it Live, Grow, Thrive 2045. Back in 2021, I believe, so we've been doing this for several years now, the Planning Commission and Tampa City Council adopted a vision for the City of Tampa after we did a lot of outreach. We have a vision statement and then some vision themes, and these are all feeding into the sections as we're updating them for the comprehensive plan. So there's a reason why we're doing this plan update. It's because Tampa is growing very fast, and it currently has over 400,000 residents. It's anticipated to have over 108,000 more residents, 77,000 new homes, and 258,000 new jobs by 2045. And so part of what we're trying to do with the future land use section is prioritizing growth in the right areas to maintain that neighborhood character, because that's something that we're hearing a lot about. We're also hearing a lot about the coastal areas, making those more resilient to ensure sustainability. And the following presentation will show how we're preserving the great things we love about Tampa while accommodating that growth, which seems to be inevitable. So as I hinted at previously, there was a comprehensive plan visioning that was done first. We reviewed and built upon engagement for related projects. There were some listening sessions, planning for Tampa's town hall, planning for Tampa's tomorrow town halls. There were small group meetings and community meetings, an interactive poll, a project website, and community conversations. So all of this was our preliminary engagement, and this has taken place over the last 2.5 to 3 years. And we heard a lot of different things. We heard that there's top issues facing Tampa residents. I'm sure this won't come as a surprise to this group. We're looking at housing, transportation, and affordability. We heard that we need to address equity, environmental concerns, as well as coastal resiliency. We were hearing there's a lot of support for development flexibility in the development process, but there needs to be clarity and certainty with some of our comprehensive plan policies that might need to be a little bit more honed in on what the intent actually is. Policies need some nuance. This is a city with diverse and distinct communities. And then the bonus structure. That needs to have clear criteria for implementation. And so we took all of that information and we started drafting a plan, or a section of the plan. So we started with refreshing. We're proposing a refresh of some future land use categories. There's a new place types concept, which we worked very closely with our partners at the City of Tampa to come up with. There's some revisions to the coastal high hazard area, updates to neighborhood commercial, and then an entirely new bonus program, which we've worked very closely with our consultant, Pritchett Steinbeck Group, to put that together. So the new concept for place types right now, the plan has something that's kind of like this, but it's called the city form. So we just wanted to make this a little bit more clear about where we're anticipating growth and what we want to do. So these are intended to guide and shape development in the city. We have regional activity centers. This is where we're looking at the highest growth in the city. So downtown, the West Shore Business District, and transit supportive development, which is another word for TOD. If we ever, and there's language in the plan about how to when that comes into play, the TOD, certain funding mechanisms or trigger language. Then next we have transit ready corridors. These are our corridors where we're going to anticipate growth because we already have transit on them, or there's going to be transit in the future. Not as high of a level as regional activity centers, but we know that there's going to be some growth kind of focusing on these corridors. And then finally, heritage neighborhoods. These are areas that are historic to the city. They're both designated historic districts, but also areas that maybe aren't designated but still have a historic character. Neighborhoods on that historic street line that I think you're all probably familiar with, ran all the way down to South Tampa, like Port Tampa City, has its own character, but it's not necessarily designated. And so we just kind of wanted to call that out and have some special language to recognize those areas. Also, we're looking at simplifying the names of the mixed use categories. Right now, community mixed use 35 does not mean 35 dwelling units an acre. And myself and my team spend a lot of time explaining that to people when we do pre-application meetings. So we're hoping to first just drop the 35 off of our mixed use categories, that density number at the end. So it would be a cleaner name. And then bring those properties outside of the coastal high hazard area up to 35 units an acre. Today, you can get there, you just have to bonus. So we're proposing that by right, you would get the 35 units an acre outside the coastal high hazard area, but those properties that are inside the coastal high hazard area would remain at the 30, which is what they would have today. So that was based on feedback from City Council and from some of the residents, and so that's why we have that proposal here. There is an option to bonus above the 35. If you're outside of the coastal high hazard area, that's up to 70. And so that's just an option. That doesn't necessarily mean that every property would get all the way there. It's just an option with the different ways that we're proposing to stack the bonuses. And this is also just an example of one category. And so that leads into the revised bonus structure. So additional density and intensity may be considered up to a defined bonus ceiling in exchange for a qualified public benefit. So we know that we need housing affordability. How do we get that? Well, it can be something that is worked out like through the development process, an award of bonus. So getting some affordable units in return for increased density or intensity. So we've tried to align those with the place types and the growth strategy, maximum bonuses within the regional activity centers, lesser bonuses along our corridors, no bonuses in the CHHA except in coastal development areas, and I'll get to that in a couple of slides. Bonuses not permitted in the residential 10. Residential 10 is pretty much single family detached with some exceptions. That is something we also heard from the community through our engagement, is that they were not thrilled with the idea of bonuses in the residential 10, except for transit bonuses along the transit-ready corridors, because that is kind of where we want to focus that development. So here's a wonderful graphic that our consultant helped us make about the bonus structure. There's going to be 3 new bonuses that increase development rights in targeted areas. That's the affordable housing bonus, the 2 tiers of a transit bonus, the transit-ready corridors, as well as transit supportive development, and then efficient and resilient buildings, because we've heard a lot about the need for sustainability and resiliency through this update. And then we have another graphic that shows how these would be stacked. You can do all affordable housing, or a developer might do a little bit of sustainability and resilience mixed with some of the transit bonus, so on and so forth. So you can stack up to a bonus ceiling, but you cannot, the developer would not be able to exceed that bonus ceiling. So another substantial update is our coastal high hazard area revisions. Through this update, we're proposing language that prohibits plan amendments that increase densities in the coastal high hazard area citywide, except for areas identified on the coastal development areas map, which is on your screen to the left, and lands designated as transitional use 24 on the adopted future land use map. So a lot of these areas identified on your map, they're in pink. On the map on the left are community redevelopment areas. And so those like the Channel District, CRA, West Tampa, East Tampa, Central Park, they have their own plans that are seeking more growth. And so we want to still provide those CRAs that flexibility to ask for a plan amendment. They also have different funding mechanisms as well. There would be no bonuses in the community redevelopment areas except in the CRAs. And then we have identified for the coastal development areas, an exemption area all the way to the south, just north of MacDill Air Force Base, and we've kind of called it out on the map to the left. There's some pockets of light industrial remaining in a single-family detached neighborhood. You might have seen some plan amendments come through over the years, people asking to get out of that light industrial category to R10. So that would be on the coastal development areas map where somebody could ask for a plan amendment to R10 in that area. There's going to be a new category proposed. Commercial restricted would allow only general commercial uses and up to a 1.5 floor area ratio and no residential. So instead, if somebody was outside of the coastal development area, they wanted a plan amendment, we would offer, they could ask for a plan amendment to this category because it would be no residential. So that would not be increasing residential in that area of high hazard. Next, some changes to neighborhood commercial. This would allow, we're looking to allow the consideration of neighborhood commercial uses within the residential 10 land use category if the site has frontage along 2 collector roadways. There's already some language in the plan about neighborhood commercial and residential 10. This is expanding it. We have some neighborhood mixed use future land use categories that could really be utilized better. And so we're looking to have those allowed to be requested citywide through the plan amendment process. Next, planning for neighborhoods. As I mentioned before, proposing no bonuses in the residential 10 or below, except along transit-ready corridors. This works in tandem with heritage neighborhoods because those are areas that we'd like to protect with greater strengthening on the regulatory aspect. And then we're just going to allow really firming up that language for consideration of townhomes in the residential 10 category in more places. It's in the plan today. It's very vague. So we've proposed some criteria where somebody might ask for townhomes if they're in that land use category. So what did we hear? We presented all of these options to the community. We went to City Council on June 27th. We posted a draft, and this is what we've heard. There's also been interactive mapping, 11 meetings, approximately all told 200 attendees, and we had feedback from neighborhood organizations, development community, pro-housing and affordable housing stakeholders, environmental representatives, and folks in the historic preservation community. So some main themes. We did not hear any concerns with the tiered approach for density bonuses or 2 density tiers in the coastal high hazard area. There were some concerns about heritage neighborhoods becoming too restrictive, although we have heard a lot of support. There's consideration of a new name and a need to possibly re-examine the intent, outcomes, methodology, and potentially add more to the heritage neighborhoods. We need to incorporate some language on the natural environment, trees, and green space further. However, we do note that some of this might be more appropriate in the land development code, and a need to further recognize the affordability issue in the plan. There's also been some split public desire on the residential 10 and the bonuses. Some felt the residential 10 should be eligible for bonuses citywide. Others don't like it at all. So we're just weighing that as we've been hearing from the community. We should be exploring additional options / pathways for increased density through a plan amendment in the coastal high hazard area. We've been hearing some feedback from the development community that their current proposal might be a little too restrictive. So we're thinking through some options there. There's a proposal, which we didn't cover in this presentation, about a minimum percentage for mixed use to utilize FAR for residential. We need to take a look at how that's calculated, explore options for the efficient resilient bonus beyond the LEED certification, and include additional resiliency components and measures. So we were going back to City Council next week for our final City Council workshop. Between September and December, we're going to be very busy reviewing all of our comments. We've asked for as many folks to send us written comments as they can by today, and I've been receiving a lot of emails all day long with some written comments. So we have to sort through all of those, make some changes, and then work this through the plan amendment process. So I will be back next year with an element. So I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. All right. Everybody's going to be queued up on this one. So please go ahead.
First of all, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate you guys. So Melissa and I have had a couple of meetings with developers about this topic, and I just wanted to bring up, I realize that we're not in a voting stage or anything, but I wanted to bring up, in case I get hit by a bus, how opposed I am to the current way that this is formatted as far as the coastal high hazard areas are concerned. So if we could, I don't know if you can bring up the map for the coastal high hazard, but basically just talking about this generally, my understanding is that our current policies say that we cannot put forth a plan amendment to increase density in the coastal high hazard area, or not that we can't. It's recommended for denial if someone does. So we recommend denial, or the Planning Commission staff recommends denial. If we recommend denial, City Council can choose whether to do it or not. As proposed, anything in the yellow here on your map would, if that land is located in yellow, you cannot even ask to increase density in that area of the city of Tampa. So unless you're in a carve out for some of these community redevelopment areas. And blanket policies like that are, in my opinion, a little bit more of a bad policy. I'm not saying that anyone, is doing anything incorrectly here necessarily, but that kind of policy is what we saw in San Francisco, and that's what creates, really expensive housing in some of these cities. I don't agree that, focusing only on rent-restricted housing, affordable housing like we have in some of these areas is the only way to provide affordable housing. I think more housing with a larger tax base is the way that we get more affordable housing, because like we see in San Francisco, it's millions and millions of dollars for any home in that area because of the restriction on development. And I'm afraid that we're going to see that here if we don't make a change as far as this coastal high hazard area is concerned. And last note is just that, people didn't move to South Tampa thinking, oh, I really hate the walkability. I really hate the amount of housing that's in South Tampa. I really hate these, waterfront areas because, people love that, and that's why we moved here. And so if we're restricting the ability to develop more in those waterfront areas and we're limiting our tax base, we're really not going to be able to improve in a way that the current community, I think, would like to see, and the people who we can't stop from moving here would also like to see. That's it.
Well said, Commissioner Sieben.
And I just want to echo, we have been hearing that from the development community. I do really appreciate those comments. Currently, the language says no net increase in density in the coastal high hazard area. And so that's been interpreted to mean net increase through a plan amendment. There are still, this would not prohibit anybody requesting a zoning with their future land use that they have today. There'll still be potential for some development, but we absolutely are taking those comments into consideration, and that echoes what we've been hearing through our outreach.
Just one more comment.
Yep.
Developers can be really creative and can come up with, really exciting stuff. We've been in a time where we have a lot of really high construction costs because of COVID, and we have a really high insurance costs in Tampa right now, or in Florida in general. So I think that's maybe why we haven't seen as many proposals for these types of, increases, even in spite of the influx of people moving here. But I think putting a limit on it really hampers us from ever seeing that creativity in these areas where I think a lot of people would actually really like to see it.
All right, Commissioner Lauk.
Yes, can we lean into Commissioner Sieben's comments a little bit? They have a lot of merit, and I'm hearing slightly two different things. I'm hearing cannot, may not apply for anything in those areas versus limitations. So can we expand on that a little bit and talk through what actually is in the language today and where we think we might be going with any changes that are there? Because I share her concerns wholeheartedly. Couldn't have expressed it better in a million years.
Yeah, let me be very clear. So today, you can apply for a plan amendment in the coastal hazard area to increase density. Staff will take the policies into consideration in our recommendation, specifically the policy that says no net increase of density in the coastal high hazard area. A net increase in density has been interpreted to mean through the plan amendment change on the future land use map, because that is increasing the potential density. As Commissioner Sieben pointed out, anything can happen when that gets to Tampa City Council. They're the final decision maker. The proposal, because we were hearing from council and from the community that language was too vague, the proposal before you is to prohibit plan amendments in the coastal high hazard area, carte blanche, except for the areas highlighted on your map in the hatch. That's the community redevelopment areas that overlap with the coastal high hazard area, as well as this carve out that we've pointed out on the right-hand side of your screen, because that's a really special situation, as well as the transitional use 24 future land use category, because the name of that future land use category, we want to transition it away. In exchange for that carte blanche, no asking unless you're in one of these carve-outs, we have proposed a future land use category that has no residential potential. So somebody could still ask for, if they really wanted to develop commercial in the coastal high hazard area, they could ask for this commercial restricted future land use category through the map amendment process. That's the proposal, but as I said, it's only a proposal, and that's why we're here to get this feedback today.
It's an interesting situation. So the carte blanche no proposal as it exists today, in my mind, seems to serve one stakeholder and not the multitude of stakeholders. So if I think about the development community, for example, I would imagine you're not going to find a single developer that comes in and tells us that that's a good policy. And they're not going to build things, by and large, that don't sell. And by and large, that's a representation of the public. If the public is buying it, it's something that they want. So I would caution us not to fall into a tyranny of the minority to the people, or the majority. The majority is the minority of the people that show up, if you can follow that. I can't, and I'm the one saying it. So just to be clear, we have a small group of people that show up, and they probably carry a majority voice in some of these conversations. And I think those stakeholders that arise may not represent the wider public's view on this, especially given how those properties sell on the market. So I would caution us to even have this language in here, period.
Thank you.
I would, we absolutely understand the feedback and the sentiment. That's exactly what I think we want to get at this point in the process. I just want to emphasize that some of the direction that we have received has come from Tampa City Council on these issues. So it is not, and maybe they're only hearing from a certain segment of the population, but nevertheless, we're trying to balance all of the interests, and it's very helpful for us to hear this today. Thank you.
Commissioner Kress.
I don't know whether Sean feels comfortable being put on the spot or not, but maybe it would be good to remind us why we want to restrict development in the coastal high hazard area, like, you know, kind of the rationale behind that and what it might mean to public tax dollars down the road, et cetera.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, we're restricting the potential for plan amendments. Somebody can still develop in the coastal high hazard area with their existing entitlements, so that would remain. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Sean College, Planning Commission staff. Yeah, some information that for you all to consider. The coastal hazard area is the most hazardous area, is potentially inundated by a storm surge and a Category 1 hurricane. Tampa's consultant recently is completing a coastal area action plan where they examined what to do in this area. And one thing they found was that the majority of municipalities in the state of Florida actually carte blanche prohibit plan amendments that increase density in the coastal high hazard area. So this proposal, where we are carving out areas where it would be permissible, is actually more permissive than most jurisdictions in Florida. And you know, we're doing this because the CRAs have an ability to mitigate that risk through their budget, through their proposals. So, you know, we're trying to balance, as our director mentioned, what we're hearing from the City Council in a way that mitigates the risk and is reasonable. And I think, you know, we've come up with a good proposal, and it is more permissible than most jurisdictions. One of the proposals that the consultant suggested was just carte blanche, no plan amendments at all anywhere. And we thought that, you know, in the coastal hazard area, but we came up with this area. We think there is merit in certain areas of having some ability to increase density, and that's why we came up with this proposal.
All right, Commissioner Sieben.
I just did want to note that I think it was recently we had a different proposal in front of us to provide incentives for marine construction, for marinas around South Tampa. So it seems like in some ways we are forward thinking about this growth, but in other ways we're trying to prohibit it. And then my other comment was going to be, you know, I've heard on the street recently that, you know, we're preparing to have enough population growth or we could turn into Boston as a city, you know, and that's going to be in South Tampa downtown and, you know, potentially St. Pete, I guess, as well. But Like, we're not going to have that if we can't plan for this correctly. And we are waterfront, so is Boston. Like, we can plan for these emergency evacuation routes. We can plan to elevate the development to the extent that we can withstand a hurricane and we can withstand, increased waters. The code is updated, every year for those purposes. So those things are all contemplated. We're not the only ones thinking of it.
Commissioner Orton.
The coastal high hazard area is called that because, as you said, it is the most dangerous. FEMA has called it that. The storm surge is the worst part. It will flood, and that's why it's called that. It's the insurance that bothers me because it's not just those houses that are sitting on the beach. It's also everyone else in Florida. We have the highest insurance rates, and that's because of flooding. It doesn't affect just those homes or those buildings on the beach. It affects everyone. And I've worked in the areas that don't allow you to build anything in the coastal high hazard area, or if you do, you have to fill it. And even when you fill, you're still going to have some problems. Allowing anything or any density in the coastal high hazard area is just so very dangerous. And people say, well, they found different ways in order to build. And if they found the correct way to build, then there wouldn't be a coastal high hazard area. They would just, just do it this way, and we can take coastal high hazard area off. But they haven't done that yet because it is the most dangerous area. We have hurricanes all the time. We don't even need to have a hurricane for flooding. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Orton. Commissioner Sieben.
Sorry, last thing on this, but I would say that one argument that could be made in terms of insurance is the way to defray increases in insurance costs is by increasing the basis for the people who are paying for that insurance. And that way would be to increase density to make the housing that we do have more affordable.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Sieben. I had a comment. The question, actually, I was transit-ready corridors. We spoke about that earlier. Sorry to shift everybody away from the coastal high hazard area. Let's take a break from that for a moment. Are we coordinating with HART on that? Because I know that's been an issue in the past.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great question. I should have mentioned it. Yes, we have coordinated that with HART through a meeting, run all the corridors through HART. We're probably going to have some increased coordination now that we're getting very close to the finish line, but we've been in conversation with HART about which corridors are on the map.
Okay. All right. And I had a clarification question back to the coastal high hazard areas, a short break. So we have two areas that allow for development. That's the CRA kind of areas, community, or areas with a PD?
That would allow for a plan amendment.
Plan amendment.
A plan amendment. Okay. So there can still be development in the coastal high hazard area with those existing entitlements. But yes, so we have coastal development areas, which is the hatched on your map, are areas that we would accept a plan amendment within the coastal high hazard area.
Can I ask HTV to show the map again on the presentation? Thank you.
And what's the pink area? That's what I was.
Great question. That's the community redevelopment areas that don't overlap. Those are CRAs. And if it's not hatched, it's because it doesn't overlap with the coastal high hazard area. Okay. So that very large to the east, that's East Tampa CRA. And they just don't have any CHHA in their CRA. But we're seeing downtown is a CRA. That also includes Harbor Island, as well as Channel District, portions of West Tampa, okay. I think would be the most impacted.
All right. And my last question was, seems to be a lot of talk about the coastal high hazard area and a lot of use from the city of Tampa going forward. We just approved the CIP stuff to move forward, found it consistent. And obviously wastewater and water are always huge expenditures in every CIP. I've been doing this for a long time, and everyone that comes past me, it's like water and wastewater. We never really, and I've tried to do it in the past because I've done a lot of development, I understand how things work through my background. We never really have conversations about infrastructure, right? And improving our wastewater and water management infrastructure in the coastal high hazard area. now that we're having these conversations about redeveloping the comp plan, maybe Sean can kick in on this too, are these conversations being had about the decrepit nature of our current infrastructure, the fact that we're dumping water in the bay every time it rains lightly, and the fact that we need better water management infrastructure in those areas that might keep people safer when the water starts to rise? Are those conversations being had with the city at any level, or city council, since they're, so into this?
I'm going to turn over to Melissa Dickens to answer that question.
Sure. That is something that we look at every year when we examine the CIP. There are policies that indicate that public expenditures should be limited to a certain extent within the coastal high hazard area. So that is part of the documentation that Erica included in the backup in her presentation. With respect to future planning, future proofing, there are a number of plans related to resiliency initiatives that the city is conducting. We really see the CIP portion as part of our review, but there are a number of other aspects of planning that the city is considering.
Could you state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. Thanks.
So does any of that play into their stances on the CHA, or is it just we're not, I'm trying to understand if they're have a lean towards improving, or are they talking about not improving infrastructure? Because obviously they're talking about no development there going forward. So how?
I think they want to improve the infrastructure for maintenance and for existing residents, but I don't know that they are planning additional infrastructure for growth.
Well, why not? Water keeps rising. I mean, it doesn't stop. It's not like we can plan for what we have now. And in 10 years from now, if sea levels keep rising, right, Sean? If sea levels keep rising, we should be planning for more water, shouldn't we not? Or should we just keep planning for what we have today and letting what we have today lapse as it ages? It would seem like we should have a broader, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think what I was trying to say is that they're trying to bring up the existing infrastructure to be more resilient and have better standards, but that doesn't necessarily mean like expanding the capacity to allow for 100,000 more people to live in the coastal high hazard area.
That's exactly, that's very well said, Sean College Planning Commission staff. Exactly. Expenditures under the comp plan are allowed for the current planned population in the coastal high hazard area, and that would include any improvements in infrastructure, stormwater, to make those existing planned populations safe, and any shortcomings we have right now or problems we're having right now. The difference would be coming in terms of now we're going to plan for maybe more population in certain areas, and that would be a change.
Well, even if we're not planning for population, shouldn't the infrastructure be okay? Just take population out of this conversation, and let's just talk about water we have now and the infrastructure we have now. It doesn't work now, so that's the point I'm making. Shouldn't we be, irrespective of population, be planning for better infrastructure? And when we make that plan, doesn't that then impact how we think about the coastal high hazard area?
So, Evan Johnson, City of Tampa, I just wanted to mention a couple things. One, from a existing infrastructure perspective, the city's going through a vulnerability assessment, which is examining any of our assets that exist in vulnerable areas, which typically is the coastal high hazard area. When you're dealing with those. So that is coming out of that ultimately will be recommendations about specific, how do we harden, how do we improve, how do we ready ourselves for sea level rise in those specific areas that are most vulnerable. So that is an assessment that's ongoing right now. As far as the larger discussion about infrastructure upgrades, I mean, city council every week, I can't speak as an expert, but I certainly can bring back some summaries to you all for just, to kind of distribute to staff regarding the pipes project and the billions being spent on upgrading the water system writ large around the city. So I'd be glad to do that. I can't speak to it a lot. And I also highly recommend, if you want to go back and hear a lot about it, last Thursday's city council meeting, Vic B-Day from Mobility and Stormwater spent about 40 minutes briefing them about improvements and issues based on just that rainstorm that we had the other day, so you get a good flavor for, there's a lot of work being done, and a lot of those projects are being done in vulnerable areas. But if you want a larger summary, I certainly can bring it back to you all.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments? Of course, I see. Oh, Commissioner Siebman.
Me again. Actually, Sean, there was I forget what it was that you presented on recently that I sent you comments on. I spoke about it here, but I remember specifically one of the provisions of that was that we were proposing not to have improvements in infrastructure in the coastal high hazard area. And I might be summarizing it a little bit incorrectly, but that was one of my major concerns with that.
Yeah, you were commenting on the coastal management element, Sean College Planning staff, and the coastal management element. And we have your comments, and we are looking like we can make the revisions that would accommodate your concerns.
But that was one of my concerns about that element specifically, was that I believe that it said that they were proposing to limit infrastructure improvements in the coastal high hazard.
So that provision, I know what you're talking about, is an existing provision in the plan now.
Okay.
And it is a common theme that the state of Florida has asked jurisdictions to do for decades, because there's a requirement in state law to address the coastal high hazard area.
Sure.
We're required to do it. And one of the reasons that they've done it historically is to limit expenditures that don't promote new growth or more population, more residential units in the coastal high hazard area. So that's.
I'm sorry, you said to limit expenditures that don't promote.
We don't want to have expenditures, and again, this is existing provision, it's in the plan now. You don't want expenditures that promote new growth in the coastal hazard area. That is oversizing a line, a water line, not for more growth than is planned now, because that would be an incentive to build beyond the plan that we're planning for and the population we're planning for now. So that's what we're talking about, not building infrastructure in anticipative of growth that we're not planning for.
So, but in effect, does that limit our growth in perpetuity then, almost? I mean, is that the intent?
If that's what the city council is planning for, we want to build infrastructure for the growth we're planning for. Now, if we change our planning and we say now in these coastal development areas, we are going to allow the consideration of plan amendments, then that would change, potentially change our infrastructure needs.
Okay, thank you.
I see Mr.
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Evan Johnson, City of Tampa. I just wanted to add, this actually was something that popped in my head. The Planning Commission had recently done an analysis. We were talking about growth within the coastal high hazard area, and the Planning Commission recently looked at this and projected that by 2050, given what's planned now, which means the densities and intensities that are allowed by the plan now, we're still talking about 28,659 new residents, which is 43% higher than 2020. So there's still a lot of growth projected just based on the densities and intensities currently allowed within the coastal high hazard area. And I think one of the challenges we've dealt with in the city is we hear a lot from the neighborhoods, but one of the things I think that everybody's realized is that the new development is happening, and a lot of it's happening and intensifying without changes to the comp plan itself. There's a lot of density and intensity out there that is already entitled and allowed, that then the rezonings come through, then you get the PDs or new development. And I think sometimes we hear from the community, I know throughout the comp plan public involvement process, we'll hear from folks and they'll say, why is this able to happen? How can the comp plan deal with this? And frankly, the density intensity is already there. And I think that is something that people are experiencing, particularly in South Tampa. But ultimately, it's already out there. We're not taking it away with the comp plan update.
Commissioner Kress.
Did you want to respond?
Sorry, I did, just real quick. So are those numbers that you just quoted, are they reflective of the influx of population growth that we've seen since COVID? Or are those numbers that we had planned for before COVID happened?
I can't speak specifically to Yassert's work. I can say that the work was recently completed based on the new 2050 population projections for the long-range transportation plan.
It was looking at our base population and then looking out to 2050 and saying, where can that go? And based on what's on the future land use map, there's the ability to accommodate at least that much more population growth within the coastal high hazard area. And so Yasser has a model of how, attractive different areas are, and the coastal area is very attractive, as you said. So it's going to draw and fill up, if that makes sense, first. So we look at what areas can fill up with population within that time frame, and that's
But
what he was
that model reflects the whatever
Yeah,
100
it's-
people a day moving here since
Yeah,
COVID
I mean,
started.
I don't know exactly what date was his base year, but it was recent, and then looked forward to 2050.
Okay.
Commissioner Kress.
Just, of course, a plug that another way to make housing more affordable is not to require everyone to have a car. But then I wanted to just give feedback since today's the deadline. I think the balance that you've struck with, I think, compromises in the coastal high hazard area seems pretty reasonable to me. And then break from coastal high hazard area, just a question about neighborhood commercial. If I understood it correctly, it needed to be basically a corner lot, I think. And I just wonder why it had to be restricted to a corner.
Yeah, Jennifer Malone, Planning Commission staff, we just felt that that would create almost like a neighborhood node within maybe a residential area instead of allowing too much strip commercial or having it not be placed in the right place. So that was our thinking there, is that would offer a node of commercial. And we've been hearing a lot about neighborhood commercial districts, so we thought focusing it where it could occur for the residential 10 would promote that.
Okay.
And if there was the desire for commercial, a larger district, so say like a whole block or something like that, our guidance would be might be better to recognize that with a different land use category than the residential 10. So,
Right.
and one thing that once we get through updating the text of the plan, we hope to be able to look at some proactive map amendments, and maybe, if there are some areas where we need to do that, go ahead and call them, it's not very transparent to call it residential 10 and then have it allow commercial pretty much anywhere. So it'd be better to go ahead and change that to a different land use category.
Right, and part of this, the neighborhood mixed use future land use category we have now is very restricted where people can ask for it. So by saying that these can be requested citywide, and I think there's even some language in there kind of promoting it along collector roadways, that category specifically, because it is such a nice transitional category to residential uses, will also help that, and that's something we'd be looking at in a future phase too, if we ever do our
I mean,
map
you've
amendments.
thought about this way more than I have, but it seems maybe a little overly restrictive. I'm thinking of a bungalow home that gets transformed into a hair salon and a coffee shop or something, and why would that have to be on the corner? So take those comments and do what you want with them, but.
Yeah, we heard some similar feedback about, from the preservation group that we met with, about wanting to have additional incentives for preserving existing housing stock and not having it torn down and turned into a couple of units or something. So that's definitely something we can talk about some more.
Yes.
Commissioner Lauk.
I apologize in advance. I'm taking this into way too much granularity here. In reading through this, objective 1.3, there are a couple of new policies under that objective, 1.31 and 1.32.
Okay.
And I was probably just my reading and understanding of it, so I'll just throw that out there from the beginning. What's the objective of those policies? I read through those and I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish and how they could be employed in terms of applications and how they move through. Can I get a little bit of clarity,
those are
maybe
the
some layman's
planning
terms,
districts,
trying to figure out what we're trying to do here?
Do you want to speak to that? I can speak to it, or you can. Okay, so these policies, we have planning districts in the plan today. That's part of the city form. The city is split into 5 different districts. It's a little unclear what the intent of those districts are, and so this policy is just firmly establishing that we're going to be using them to monitor growth trends, conduct data, and assessing performance metrics. Actually, a great example is what Evan was pointing out earlier about the coastal high hazard area growth and those projections. Yasser Gonzalez uses the planning districts to kind of break the city up and use that for data and performance for growth and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and normally we wouldn't even probably call out this concept in the plan because we would just divide it up and look at trends by different neighborhood or geography. But because the planning district concept has been in the plan and has been utilized kind of in different ways in the past to maybe differentiate different policies, and we want to move away from that, that's why we included policy language that says specifically, this is how they're going to be used. And
yes, and this was a recommendation too from from the consultant from the work we did when they did an assessment of our current plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you. I guess I would be remiss to, when we're looking at that map, MacDill Air Force Base is pretty much completely in the coastal high hazard area. We have no choice but to develop within the coastal high hazard area. So our strategy has been, especially since the 2004-2005 hurricane season, where we got slapped pretty good. We build up, we build away from the coastline. We've hardened our coastline between the Living Shores program, which we have over 1.5 miles of living shores, and we have a very significant riprap network along the eastern shoreline, along our portion of Bayshore Boulevard. And the idea there is to reduce the wave energy that comes in, because the highest point on the base is only 14 feet above mean sea level. So Category 2 and above, base will be under, will be underwater. But the idea is to eliminate that wave energy so that we don't get the storm surge damage that you would get. We've also done things like we've put 85% of our overhead electric lines underground, and we've got a project to complete that last 15%. Mast arms for our traffic signals as opposed to span wires. So we've made the investment into our infrastructure to harden the community. And I believe that's the lesson for all the coastal communities here in West Central Florida. You need to make that investment into infrastructure in order to make your community resilient. It's just not what you're doing with that residential property. Our growth is essentially mission growth as opposed to just the overall population growth that City of Tampa would be experiencing. But we would like to have more people living on base as well, because quality affordable housing for our personnel it's almost an hour's drive away now from the base because of the situation in South Tampa. So that's the point that I'd like to make. And if you're really talking about future land use in coastal high hazard, you do have to invest in that infrastructure. So that's my point. Thanks.
Good points, Commissioner Rodriguez. I'm going to go to you because I saw you move
All right,
first.
I'm sorry. I promise the last one. And also, thank you. Those were really good points. The last thing I wanted to say was that I had suggested to Melissa maybe we, instead of a blanket prohibition on any plan amendments in the coastal high hazard, maybe we say, okay, we're already recommending denial for them, and City Council can choose which ones they like and which ones they don't like. What if we remove the blanket, the blanket prohibition and say, okay, these are the specific areas where we're going to prohibit it, if there are specific areas that are most susceptible or whatever, so that we are allowing ourselves a little bit of flexibility for the future.
Commissioner Lau.
Different topic. So just reading through, I see a lot of references to public health and quality of life, and I see the word density used 138 times if you're keeping score at home. So are we wrapping ourselves around a cornerstone or a foundation of some sort of study that says increased density translates to public health or an added quality of life? I know we have to balance the density and the people that are coming into the city and into the county, and we're specifically talking about the city here, but it seems to me we're trying to, with a lot of the things we're doing in here, we're driving density into specific areas of the city, and we're talking about the improvement in quality of life. So do we have any studies that show like improved density equates to a quality of life improvements or improved public health?
So I don't know that I can say there's a specific study, but with increase in density, you provide the the population to support additional options coming into an area. Options for, you've got a market for shopping or certain commercial uses. You've got now potential ridership for other transit options. So I think that is one way, we believe, by focusing density, that we can create, a better place where people can maybe walk to a store, because now there's population that needs to be served by that store, and so there's a market for that to come into that neighborhood. The other thing, I think, balancing the equation is that we've heard quite a bit from the community about wanting to maintain the neighborhood character of some of the residential neighborhoods. And if we don't, we have to allow the growth to go somewhere. So there's a balance. Okay, we want to retain some of the older context of the neighborhood. We want to maintain some of that character. Well, then along the corridors is the place where historically, through studies, we've heard quite a bit that people, they don't love how Florida Avenue looks. They don't love how Nebraska Avenue looks. Maybe it's getting better, but those older commercial areas are the places where people are like, yeah, we'd be okay with it changing. They don't want that 4 blocks into their neighborhood, but they don't mind it along the corridor. So that's sort of how we're trying to balance and protect the quality of life of those existing residents who live in those neighborhoods by focusing the growth along the corridors and in those regional activity centers.
Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And I make those comments as a precursor to open spaces, trails, parks. If I look at this plan, I don't see any new additional language to it, any modification. And I would encourage you guys to maybe take a look at the trail system, open parks, preserving some of that space and expanding potentially some of that language. If we're going to talk about public health and quality of life, we can't just keep putting our hat on density. Density doesn't drive public health and public happiness.
Absolutely, and we are going to be coming forward with the recreation and open space section later this year, and that is within my team, so I can pass that along to those folks. And then some of the items related to public health are related to food access or access to services and things like that. So although density is mentioned, it's the health language is kind of an individual objective.
All right, Commissioner Bowden.
Yeah, I like the idea that Commissioner Stevens has in regard to identifying certain areas within the coastal hazard area. I think also there should be some verbiage in that it's saying that in order to get that density, you have to actually harden that particular, to make it resilient. So that should be a requirement as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowden. That was the point I was making about tying them together. You did it very succinctly and quickly, so thank you for that, Commissioner Soria.
I've been listening to it for a while.
Yeah, just to add to that, as Sean mentioned, Category 1 hurricane, and last week we had a storm, and Tampa almost went on a gridlock because of that. But definitely, coastal high hazard area is definitely a public safety issue as well, and that's something we should look into. But at the same time, we should have some policies that would allow development in that area or increase density, as Commissioner Rodriguez mentioned, like the base adapts some. So maybe once those things are done, the coastal high hazard area is not considered to be coastal high hazard area, like maybe some language to be added about those things. And one more thing I noticed about the presentation is like, there's emphasis on development or increased development in the central business district, and majority of that is in coastal high hazard area. So how do we handle that? Like, if you could shed more light on that.
Yeah, so specifically, how do we handle development in the CBD?
That is correct,
Since it's in the coastal hazard area?
Tampa Convention Center, Strass Center, majority of that all exist in coastal high hazard areas too.
Right. do you want to respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
So today, the central business district land use category has unlimited floor area ratio and unlimited density. It is only limited by the FAA and the height limits. But in addition, the downtown area is a community redevelopment area. It has a focused funding mechanism in, as do most of the CRAs, in having tax increment financing. And that dedicates that increment of increased tax dollars into infrastructure to support that area. So that is why we think the CRAs are should be eligible for being thought of differently, because they have a separate mechanism to fund making their infrastructure more resilient than perhaps like the area of south of Gandy does, that doesn't have that mechanism.
Okay, so it will basically bring in more funds to improve the infrastructure.
And it's focused, like that increment of tax increase, property tax increase, can only be used in downtown.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
And Commissioner Sean College Plan Commission staff, I've been hearing some great comments about hardening and doing more with how we build. They're very well taken. And it's something we had been talking about and considering. You know, those details, I've been talking to some commissioners about freeboard. We had some conversation about a policy that talked about a specific freeboard. And rightly, the comp plan is not generally where we put very specific details and numeric details about freeboard or wind resistance or things like that. We tend to do it more generally, and those specifics generally go in the code. We have been having discussions with our counterparts at the City of Tampa. It's one thing they do want to look at in the future is those kind of standards, and maybe that would allow for more permissible development if it's up to a certain standard. They're not prepared to be able to do that now. It's going to take some time and some consultant work to develop that into code, so it might be something we'll see in the future.
Thank you, Sean.
Commissioner Ward.
I just have a quick question. Is the City of Tampa or Hillsborough County members of the community rating system? And what's the number on that?
Evan Johnson, Tampa City Planning. I don't know, but I can look it up. But we do have a CRS rating related to flood insurance costs, yeah.
All right. Are there any more discussion points, comments? Commissioner Buzz, are you sure you don't want to say, you want to jump in on this? All right. Then we will thank you for the information, and we will move on to our next presentation item. All right. So next up we have 4B, HCCPA 2406 Comprehensive, is that the right one? Yeah. Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment, Energy Industrial Park Residential, and the presenter is Melissa Leinhardt.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Melissa Leinhardt with your Planning Commission staff. I'm here to walk you through HCCPA 2406, which is a proposed privately initiated text amendment. As I mentioned, this is privately initiated. This is a text amendment to policies under the future land use element objectives 58 and 59. And those sections of the future land use element apply to the energy industrial park area, which you may remember from last month because we just discussed it. One of the changes proposed under this plan amendment applies to one portion of the property. That's about 476 acres in size, and that's to the south of the railroad tracks. But some of the other changes, and I'll walk through them in the subsequent slides, they apply to the entirety of the energy industrial park area. So we're looking at this area south of State Road 60 here, bordered by Dover Road, Durant, and Turkey Creek Road to the east. This item is part of the January 2024 cycle of plan amendments. It is in the urban service area, and there's no community plan in this area. This category and the text underneath the category were created in 2010, and that was again through another privately initiated amendment process at that time.
Those policies were written in 2010 based on the topography of the site, as well as the energy producing technology that was available at the time of creation. And in 2010, there was a large public outreach effort to cover this energy industrial park area and the language. And then subsequent to that, in 2022, there was a text amendment to the language which modified the required number of alternative energy outputs. And that was adopted and is effective today. And essentially, how that language reads is that allows for one energy producing output rather than the two that were originally required, so long as that output was doubled to achieve the vision of the energy industrial park. I see some of you nodding, so you might remember it. Again, that's in effect today. So that gets us to the impact slide of the proposed text change. The existing language today does not allow for residential development. There's also a requirement today that a minimum of 40% of the land area must be used for energy producing uses. There is also a limit on industrial research, manufacturing, institutional warehousing, and distribution facilities, and that limit is to 30% of the overall land area. And then the way the language is written today is that direct access is required from a major arterial, and that would be State Road 60 in this case. So this is the proposed language. It would allow for the consideration of residential in that 475-acre pocket that I was mentioning previously. I have a graphic on the next screen that I'll run through and show you exactly where that is. The proposed language would also allow for direct access to a collector roadway for the proposed residential use, and in this case, this would be Dover Road, that western boundary road. The proposed language would decrease the minimum requirement for those energy producing uses. Currently, it's 40% is the requirement, and the proposed language could reduce that to 25%. And then again, that's through the whole energy industrial park area. The proposed language would also allow for industrial research, manufacturing, institutional, warehousing, and distribution facilities to exceed the current limit of 30% of the overall land area by increasing that to 50%. The proposed language would also allow for an agricultural farm and garden area within the residential area that I mentioned. And this is the graphic that I wanted to show you. You can see the crosshatch area here. Well, first of all, the entire site is outlined in the pink outline, and then this crosshatch area to the south, that's about 475 acres. That's on the other side of the railroad line. That is where the residential is proposed, particularly not anywhere else in the energy industrial park. And then that access would be potentially from Dover Road, which is the western boundary there. And then just to point out, as I mentioned, this is the railroad corridor, so CSX. And then here you can kind of see another cutout that goes like north to south, east to west here, and connects back to Turkey Creek Road. That's a TICO corridor, so that's why it's carved out of this area. Just wanted to point that out. That is all I have for you today. Concludes my presentation. Here for any questions that you have.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Saria.
Just a question about the land that's supposed to be used for energy production from 40 to 25%. So that's excluding once the residential, or is it
the
all
overall total area?
Okay.
And I should mention also that there is currently a proposed rezoning for the site. It's currently a planned development, which I know we don't consider here, but just as part of the background information, that already has entitlements associated with it from 2010 when this was established. They ran together, and currently there is a new rezoning in. So the idea is that they would incorporate some of the changes from the previous application that you all saw last month, and then potentially this one. They're two separate applications. They're not dependent on one another, but that the rezoning would ultimately work with those percentages to either increase areas, reduce areas, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other, I had a quick question on that along those same lines, because I noticed that 40-25, how come it went to 25? Like, how is that? They just
privately initiated.
Okay.
That was what that's what they put in the red line.
All right, so that means that is that like a net equal thing because it's over the larger property now, or was it over the larger property before at 40%?
It's over the entire property as it's written today, but the private applicant has proposed to reduce that number.
So we're just going to produce less energy overall.
That's what it looks like. Or excuse me, I should say, less land area. They could have different outputs.
Okay, right.
But, and there are output requirements in the 2010 rezoning. They're not associated with the plan amendment. They're conditions of approval with the rezoning, but it talks about, different megawatts associated with solar and, pig farming or whatever those alternative energies are. They're all prescribed in the 2010 rezoning.
Okay. And you said this is privately initiated, so the BOCC hasn't seen this yet? Have you workshopped this with them?
They have approved the BOCC memo, so in that process, it's in the procedures manual. It's very similar to text amendments to the Land Development Code. It's a pretty new process we've had for about a year or two. Essentially, we took this request to the Board of County Commissioners and we said, would you like this to move forward, or would you like us to refund a portion of the application fee? And then it's kind of dead in the water, but they've said they'd like it to go forward. So currently, it has not been to the board beyond that, but we are going to the briefing, which is similar to this situation, where the board hears the basis for the request. That is on Wednesday from 1:30 to 3:30.
Okay, all right. Are there any other comments, questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information.
All right, thank you.
We will move on to our next item of business, item 4C, HCCPA 24-26, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 6625 County Road 579, and the presenter is Alexis Myers.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Alexis Myers, Planning Commission staff, here to present HCCPA 2426, located at 6625 County Road 579. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 38.29 acres. The applicant is proposing to change the future land use category from residential 2 to light industrial planned. Here we have the general location map. The site is in the rural area and within the limits of the Tonota-Sassa Community Plan. Here is the aerial. The site is outlined in pink, while the blue line indicates the urban service area boundary. The subject site is north of West Pruitt Road, south of Davis Pool Road, and east of County Road 579. There is agricultural and single-family uses on the subject site. Agricultural is also to the east and north, while single-family extends to the west, north, and south. Currently, the future land use designation is residential 2. Other future land use categories shown in this map include residential 1 and residential 4 to the west, north, and south, and agricultural rural to the east. The applicant, again, is requesting to change the future land use designation to light industrial planned. Next are the impacts. As far as the existing conditions, currently under Res 2, the site could consider 77 dwelling units or 87,120 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed future land use designation of light industrial planned, no residential is allowed except limited accessory residential, for example, an on-site security guard. The site could consider 1,250,934 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in the increase of non-residential uses, the elimination of residential uses, and introduce industrial uses. And this concludes my presentation for HCCPA 2426, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Were there any questions, comments from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. I had a quick question. Is it, you said it was privately initiated, this one?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any sort of issue going on the property or anything like that that you know of?
Not that I know of, not an issue. Yes.
Okay. Just a quick question. All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Then we'll thank you for the information and keep moving on. Next up, item 4D, HCCPA 24-27, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 12410, Tonota-Sassa Road, and the presenter is Tyreek Royal.
Hello everyone, Tyreek Royal, Planning Commission staff, and today I'll be presenting HCCPA 24-27 at 12410 Tonota-Sassa Road. This request is privately initiated, small-scale map amendment with approximately 39.3 acres. The request is to change the land use designation of the parcel from AR15 to Res 1. This location of the subject site is northeastern portion of unincorporated Hillsborough County. It's a part of the July 2024 cycle, located in a rural area within the limits of the Tennessee Community Plan. This is the aerial of the photo site of the site, outlined here in pink. It is located north of Tennessee Road, south of Stone Lake Ranch Boulevard, west of McIntosh Road, and east of Campbell Oak Drive. Surrounding uses include agricultural to the north, west, and east, with single-family uses to the south and southeast. Directly to the south are mobile home parks. The site is an AR15 future land use category. It allows for the consideration of farms, ranches, feedlots, residential uses, rural-scale neighborhood commercials, uses, offices, industrial uses related to agricultural and mining-related activities. Commercial uses are subject to commercial locational criteria, and the parcel to the west of the subject site is currently designated as Res 1. Surrounding land use designation include AR15 to the north and west, and Res 1 to the east and south. The applicant's requesting to change the future land use category from AR15 to Res 1. The Res 1 category is intended for rural scale densities and intensities, and multi-purpose projects must meet commercial locational criteria. AR15 allows for the consideration of the same uses as Res 1. However, industrial uses are removed, and the FAR lessens the allowable area from 40,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet, or 2.5 FAR, whatever is less intense. Again, the parcel to the west is subject of the subject site is currently designated as Res 1. And commercial uses are subject commercial location criteria. Currently, under AR15 designation, the site can be considered for up to 7 dwelling units and approximately 427,977 square feet of non-residential uses. The change to Res 1 would allow for consideration up to 39 dwelling units and the same square footage. Commercial uses are capped at 30,000 square feet. The proposed amendment will increase the potential residential density. And that concludes my presentation on this briefing. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, discussions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information and keep it moving. Next up, item 4E, HCCPA 24-28, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 18116 Boyette Road, and the presenter is Alexis Myers.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. Alexis Myers again, here to present, Planning Commission. I'm here to present CPA 2428, located at 18116 Boyette Road. This is a privately initiated map amendment that is small in scale and approximately 24.93 acres. The applicant is requesting to amend the future land use category from residential 2 to residential 4. Here is the general location map. The site is in the urban service area and located within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Community Plan. Here's the aerial. The site is outlined in pink, and the blue line indicates the urban service area boundary. The subject site is west of Boyette Road and south of Dorman Road. Agriculture is currently on the site, and it's also further east past Boyette Road. There are also single-family uses to the east, west, and north. The subject site has wetlands, significant wildlife, and is in the FEMA flood zone A. Currently, the future land use designation of the site is residential 2. Other future land use categories shown in this map include residential plan 2, which is within the urban service area as well, and then residential 1 and agriculture rural, which are in the rural area. The applicant, again, is requesting to change the future land use designation to residential 4. Next are the impacts. As far as the existing conditions, currently under Res 2, the site could consider 50 dwelling units or 87,120 square feet of non-residential uses. Under the proposed future land use designation of Res 4, the site could consider 100 dwelling units or 174,240 square feet of non-residential uses. The proposed amendment will result in the increase of density and intensity. And this concludes my presentation for HCCPA 2428, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions, comments, discussions from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information. And move on to our next item of business, 4F, HCCPA 24-29, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 6911 Gibsonton Drive, and the presenter is Tyreek Royal.
guys. It's so hard to see the cursor. All right. Good evening. Terry Grohl again, Planning Commission staff. Today I'll be presenting HCCPA 24-29 at 611 Gibsonton Drive. This request is privately initiated, small-scale map amendment with approximately 1.18 acres. The request is to change the future land use designation of the parcel from Res 6 to SMU 6. The location of the site is in the southwestern portion of unincorporated Hillsborough County. It's a part of the July 2024 cycle, located in the urban service area within the limits of the Gibsonton Community Plan. The site is located in the coastal high hazard area. It's in the FEMA floodplain zone of AE. This is an aerial photo of the subject site outlined here in pink. The site is located north of Nundy Avenue, south of Gibsonton Drive, west of Gloria Street, and east of US Highway 92. The surrounding uses include heavy commercial to the west and single-family uses to the east and north across Gibsonton Drive. The site is in a Res 6 future land use designation, which allows for the consideration of residential, suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office uses, multi-purpose projects, and mixed-use development. Commercial uses are subject to commercial locational criteria. Surrounding land use designations include AR15 to the north and west, and Res 1 to the east and south. The applicant is requesting to change the future land use category from Res 6 to SMU 6. Typical uses within SMU 6 include residential, suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office uses, research corporate park uses, light industrial, multi-purpose and clustered residential and/or mixed-use projects. Neighborhood commercial uses must meet locational criteria or be a part of a larger mixed-use plan development, and office uses are not subject to locational criteria. Currently under the Res 6 designation, the site can be considered for up to 7 dwelling units and approximately 12,850 square feet or 0.25 FAR, whatever is less intense. The change to SMU 6 would allow for the consideration of up to 7 dwelling units and 25,700 square feet or 0.25 FAR, whatever is less intense. The proposed amendment would allow for the same residential density and greater commercial intensity. And that concludes my presentation for the briefing. Any questions?
All right. Are there any questions on this one from the commissioners? Nope. All right. Well, thank you for the information. And we will move on to our next item, 4G, HCCPA 24-30 Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, 7002 Nundy Avenue, and the presenter is David Hay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioners. David Hay with your Planning Commission staff. The next item, your next preview item is 24-30. It is a privately initiated small-scale amendment. It's approximately 10.89 acres. Currently, the site has a designation of residential 6, and the applicant is seeking to go to the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. This site is just to the southwest of the one you just saw. It is located within the urban service area. It is within the Gibsonton Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. It also falls within the boundary of the coastal high hazard area. Again, here's the subject site. This was the site that you just saw Tyreek giving you the briefing on. This is the subject site. We've got Gibsonton Drive to the north, Nundy Avenue to the south. CSX Railroad runs on the western property boundary, and this is US Highway 41 coming down. That large phosphate plant on the Alafaya is just right over here. Currently, the subject site and all the properties within this yellow color are that residential 6 future land use category. This property to the east, that is the suburban mixed use 6. That's the category the applicant is requesting to go to. There is some suburban mixed use 6 located along the river to the north. The red color is this, actually it's not on there, but that's the heavy, I'm getting the
red's office
city.
Commercial 20.
Office commercial. It's not the heavy commercial. Office commercial 20. And then you've got the residential 1 over here in the wetland area. Here, the subject site has gone to that suburban mixed use 6 future land use category. It should be noted, this little notch out here, that is a Hillsborough County retention pond. Kind of in the middle there, there's a little notch out. Also, the railroad, even though it's a right-of-way, it is designated, it's a private right-of-way, so it's designated as residential 6. Currently, the site could be considered for up to 65 dwelling units or a maximum of 118,000 square feet of non-residential uses. The residential portion would remain the same. The non-residential square footage would increase to a maximum of 237,000 square feet. Would increase the commercial potential of the site. It would potentially introduce commercial intensive and light industrial uses on that site over what's currently allowed under the residential 6. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
All right. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners on this one? Not seeing any. Well, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
We will move on to our next item of business. Item number 5, Executive Director's Report. The presenter is Melissa Zornita.
Good afternoon, Melissa Zornita, Executive Director. I'll try to be brief because I know I'm between you and dinner. One item related to the last 2 items that you heard in that briefing series, the applicant for those last 2 items has requested that the one that David presented be heard at the public hearing before the smaller one that's to the east. Normally, we just put them on the agenda in the numerical order, so I wanted to get some concurrence with his request to reorder them.
Yeah, I have no problem with it.
Okay.
Does the board have any?
Okay.
Any?
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you. Before you at your seats, you do have a list of items that myself and staff have done over the last month. A lot of it has been focused on the City of Tampa comprehensive plan, the future land use update, and getting input from different stakeholder groups. So we've had a lot of meetings over this last month, and while I was just sitting there, we got 2 more comments written into us. So we really appreciate your feedback and the feedback from of others. To help us make this the best updated plan as it can be. We did have on August 16th, the jury conference for the Planning and Design Awards. There's some really great projects that are getting recognized this year. So hope you will be able to join us for that at the end of October. Tickets are now on sale. And then the last thing I wanted to mention related to this list of items is that last week the American Planning Association Florida chapter had their conference here in Tampa. It was organized by 2 of our own staff, Katrina Corcoran and Sophia Garantiva, who amazingly made it to work to present to you all today after working really hard last week on that. They volunteered a lot of time, as did a lot of other staff, to support the effort, and I just wanted to recognize their hard work on that. We had a lot of staff also making presentations, and I think it represented the agency really well throughout that week. There were over 1,100 planners in town, so it was a great opportunity for us to showcase our work. We had just a couple of items that were heard by the local government, 3 plan amendments within the City of Tampa. Were all approved by City Council. That was consistent with your recommendations from earlier in the month. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? I had one quick one. I see
Sure.
August 26th, new proposal for Pine Island, Beer Can Island. I guess
Yeah.
that's coming back at us. Boomerang's coming back.
It is. The owners have chosen not to wait for staff to work through the issues and are forging ahead with their own plan amendment. So they have requested a text amendment to an island recreation land use category, sort of similar to what staff had previously proposed, and then applying that to the future land use map. This meeting was one that Sean and I had with all of the agency representatives who had previously provided comments with concerns, because as part of this text amendment process, it goes to the Board of County Commissioners to see whether or not they want it to move forward in the process. And as part of that, our staff has to write a memo about any additional information that's needed. So there was quite a bit of concern, but a lot of that from some of these agencies like EPC or the port was based on the fact that they needed more information. So we wanted to get that from them. So yes, if the board in October decides to move it forward, it would probably come to a public hearing before you all in January.
Okay. And it's Hillsborough County public hearing? I thought it wasn't the city of Tampa?
No, it's in the
county?
unincorporated county. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I did think of one other thing I wanted to mention because she's still here. Right peeking around the corner here is Erica Flores, our new strategic communications manager. Today's her first day, and so she's probably completely overwhelmed after listening to all the acronyms and things that we've used. But you'll be seeing more of her, and so I wanted to introduce her since she was here.
All right. Welcome
Thank you.
aboard. Did you have a question for?
Yeah, I just had a comment. My comment was I attended one day of the conference. I thought it was very informative. I think what I saw of the conference, just the one day I was there, I think it was very good, very well planned. I commend the staff for doing that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I did want to say that also. I went to the conference and I had a really good time. And being who I am, I'm always quiet and listening to everyone. And there was a lot of chit chatter about how good the conference was from the planners. So shout out to Katrina and Sophia for doing an excellent job of managing all that, because it was a lot. There were a lot of people come through there, a lot of things going on throughout those days. And they were crossing their T's and dotting their I's the whole time. Planning Commission staff really showed out well. So great job all around.
Yeah, just to echo that, and just the number of presentations you and your staff gave, I think, was really commendable, too. You guys were on top of the game. Thanks. Great.
All right. All right. With that, we will move on to our next item of business. Other business, chair's business. I have none. Old business. Is there any old business? None. Does anybody have any new business they want to bring up, Commissioner Surrey?
Just some paperwork on our desk about 275 widening commons. I wasn't sure if that's something we need to address, or how does that work?
If you all wanted to address it under new business would be appropriate if there's something you all want to discuss.
Just to acknowledge.
Okay. All right. Committee reports. All right. This is when I was going to bring it up because I have a TPO committee report that I wanted to give. We had a TPO impromptu hearing, special meeting, whatever they're called, on the 3rd, where we did a vote to look at whether or not the small cities would be given a voting role on the merged MPO board. So they were looking for some direction from the MPO board, and what the board finally agreed to was to be hands-off. We felt that Pinellas and Pasco counties, well, not Pasco, but Pinellas had more small cities than we do, and they should probably lead the discussion. So the direction we gave to our representatives on that committee was to kind of listen to what Pinellas and Pasco had to say with what they wanted for their small cities, and whatever they wanted would probably be a good fit for us as long as we kept our votes, our 21 or whatever, 11, 12 votes, whatever our vote total was. As long as we have all our votes, we can decide what we want to do with it. So that was pretty much the long and short of it. The other thing that's obviously come up is this 275 widening, but that's from a previous meeting. That was a couple of meetings ago. I spoke to you about that one also. We took a vote to see whether or not we wanted to add an additional lane. And let me be clear, because there's been some misinformation gone about all this a lot. There's no physical widening of the existing extents of 275. What's happening is a capacity increase by adding another interior lane to 275. The Secretary has made that very clear, that no right-of-way will be necessary outside of the highway. The space is already there, so it's basically using the infrastructure we have more efficiently by adding another lane. Thought that was a good reason to vote for it, using what we have more efficiently. Obviously, it's caused an uproar in the community because they've been led to believe that we're widening the highway somehow. But again, the Secretary spoke about that in the TPO board meeting and assured everyone that there's no right-of-way needed. The highway's not going to get wider. So, and that's really that. You know what I mean? know if anybody had any
Yeah,
questions.
just, I don't know that there were any laws broken. It does seem like, I do appreciate the citizens were caught off guard, and it sounds like the TPO members were too, with this kind of last minute. And it's very well known how controversial this is, especially within the city of Tampa limits. I don't think the issue is solely related to physical widening. I think it's just more about, I don't remember what the number was, but $223 million or whatever it was on capacity for single occupancy vehicles, as opposed to maybe some transit moves or something like that. So it's just kind of the whole induced demand type thing. So I don't know if there's anything else to be done at this point by this body, but it is good to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I will say too, on behalf of the TPO board, that that project was moved, the wording on that project was changed, and we also moved 4 transit projects up the priorities list at the same time. We don't speak about that. As you just said, there's not, so they both happened at the same time, and we all voted for both of them, but only this one is kind of being demonized and talked about for whatever reason, I don't, whatever the reasons are. So, yeah.
I can add to that because I was the TPO member representing. I think it was from removing 275 altogether, and there was a big uproar from that part because everybody was against it, but TPO still went against that vote, and so it's just adding to that. Like instead of getting rid of it, now it's widening, so it's getting a lot of attention from everybody.
Yeah. All right. Are there any other questions, comments? No? Then I'll put it out there for other committee reports from anyone. Not seeing any at this time, then we will move on to our last item of business, which is adjournment. And since we're running behind 5:45, all right, we'll come back at 5:45 for our public hearings. And at 5:18, this regular meeting is adjourned.